Trump has been elected the 47th president of the United States, defeating Kamala Harris. CNN's Leigh Waldman joins us now live from Washington, D.C. So, Leigh, Wisconsin was the last state to send him over the edge. What happened there?
Yeah, and Annette, Wisconsin, the last state to send him over the edge for the 270 electoral votes needed to make him the projected winner there, the president-elect for 2024, declaring him the victory. So he was poised to win as 47th president of the United States over Vice President Kamala Harris. It appears that he is going to sweep those battleground states. Her clearest path to victory to the White House would have been through what's called the blue wall of Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and Michigan, and Donald Trump was able to crumble the blue wall. That's what sent Joe Biden to the White House in 2020, and it appears that Donald Trump was able to crumble that blue wall. It sent him over with 276 votes. A big win also for Donald Trump. He's poised to win the popular vote as well.
Now, let's talk about voter turnout. How does it compare to voter turnout from 2020?
So both of these candidates, when they were going to these battleground states and speaking to the nation as a whole, they were saying that because this race was incredibly tight throughout the course of the race, they were saying voters needed to do their civic duty and cast their votes, and they did. So especially in these battleground states, talking about Pennsylvania, North Carolina, Nevada, and in Arizona, they had historic voter turnout. So people did cast their votes in this race, but we saw a lot of in-person votes cast, not so much the early votes that we saw or those mail-in ballots that we saw in 2020. So that's why we were able to get these votes counted a lot sooner than we did in 2020. That's where we're able to have results for you this morning rather than days out like we saw in 2020.
You've also been following the balance of power, Leigh, on Capitol Hill. What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, that's been very interesting to follow as well. So we do know at this point this morning, the Senate has flipped. So at this point, it was in control of the Democrats. It has now flipped to Republican control. What we have our eyes on is the House. So at this point, it is in Republican control. What we have our eyes on is to see if it flips into Democratic control. If it were to do that, it'd be a historic flip. So we don't know what's going to happen there. We have our eyes on it, but it currently is in Republican control. If it were to flip again, that would be the first time both were to flip in 230 years. So we have our eyes on the House to see if it were to do that, but at this point, it is under Republican control, which, if it stays that way, it would benefit Republican President-elect Donald Trump.
Okay, because policies would be able to move through so quickly. Now, do we expect to hear from Kamala Harris today, maybe this morning?
So we don't know exactly what time we're going to hear from Vice President Kamala Harris, but we do know that we are going to hear from her at some point today. So she did not address her supporters last night at her alma mater, Howard University, which is about 2 miles away from where we are here in Washington, D.C. But we do know, hearing from her campaign team, that she is going to address her supporters and the nation today. She wanted to wait until every vote was counted. So we're expecting to hear from her at some point today, just not sure exactly when that's going to happen.
Okay, thanks very much for that. CNN's Leigh Waldman reporting live for us from Washington, D.C. We appreciate your time this morning.